You're watching AM News. It's time for your business. Alcohol companies say the proposed ban on alcohol advertising and sponsorship will cost the economy over 7 billion rand in lost revenue each year. They told Parliament that close to 12,000 direct jobs will also be lost as a result. The companies were briefing the Portfolio Committee on Sports and Recreation. The bill, which paves the way for the banning of alcohol advertising, has already been approved by Cabinet, but has not yet been tabled. The Association of Responsible Alcohol Use discussed the social role that the alcohol industry plays within the domestic market. Now, for more on this, we joined from our Cape Town studios by Mike Mabasa, the spokesperson for the Industry for Responsible Alcohol Use. Mr. Mabasa, good morning to you. And can you tell us what is the socio-economic role that the alcohol industry plays within the domestic market?
Well, the alcohol is a very important player in our economy. We contribute quite significantly to a number of activities at a social level. I'm talking here about sports activities, sports development in particular. We also participate quite strongly in cultural activities. I mean, we have quite a number of activities. For an example, the South African Music Awards is supported by the industry. The Makufe Festival that we had 3 weeks ago, the Cape Town Jazz International Festival, and quite a number of other activities that we support. We also do a lot of community work in terms of our corporate social investments, where we participate very strongly in terms of community development across the country in different communities, particularly where there are needs. We obviously work with different authorities in order for us to be able to assist our communities with development projects.
Sporting codes, as you just indicated, currently supported by the various SAB brands, will be threatened by the potential loss of sponsorship funding from the alcohol industry. How do you think will the lack of the visibility of alcohol brands help in responsible alcohol use? Because you represent the Association for Responsible Alcohol Use.
Well, look, I think the industry is obviously concerned about alcohol abuse in South Africa. And I think we are on record as having said that we need to be able to come up with measures that will help the country to be able to reduce specifically the abuse of alcohol in our societies. But we don't believe as the industry that banning alcohol advertising in particular will help us to reduce consumption. And we believe very strongly that we need to be able to find other interventions that will really be able to help us to achieve this objective. Because both government and the industry, many other associations and structures, whether it's NGOs, we all agree that certainly there is something that needs to be done. In this particular case, I think our sporting codes will definitely suffer a huge loss of sponsorship, particularly at this very difficult times in our economy, because a lot of sponsors are actually withdrawing their sponsorships. You'll remember, for an example, one of our major banks in the last 2 weeks has announced that they will not be supporting Bafana in the next coming 3 years because they're withdrawing their sponsorship. And our concern as the industry is that Bafana currently has the South African breweries as the major sponsor. And if that particular sponsorship from SAB is also withdrawn because of a bill that bans alcohol advertising, certainly I think we'll have major challenges also across the board, because we also support the Springboks, the Proteas, and codes, and also including at the developmental level.
So it's just not about banning the advertising, it's also about banning the sponsorships to various sporting codes, which is, I would think, not fair.
Indeed, I think the understanding that we have, because remember we have not seen this bill because the bill was approved by Cabinet on the 18th of September this year, and we're still waiting for the Department of Social Development and Health to release that particular bill for public comment. But our understanding, based on the public statements that we've seen in the media, is that there are 3 main areas that the bill talks to. Firstly, it's alcohol advertising, which is definitely your adverts on television, on newspapers, on billboards, in cinemas. Those will obviously disappear. Secondly, we're told that the sponsorship will also be affected, which means the contribution that we are making to different sponsors some of which I have referred to earlier on. And then lastly is also promotions. It means, for an example, we can't promote any of our products, particularly whether it is at beer festivals, whether it is at functions, and so on and so forth. So those are the three main categories which this bill is purported to look at. And we are very, very keen to look at the bill and to make our own contribution in terms of how best we can be able to make a contribution as the industry to make sure that we're able to achieve the objective that government has set, which is to reduce the abusiveness and obviously the consumption in relation to abuse in the country, because alcohol is not necessarily a problem. The issue is the alcohol abuse. A lot of South Africans enjoy alcohol very responsibly. They go to dinners and lunches and enjoy their lunch with a glass of red wine and so on and so forth. So they do so in a very responsible way, and we believe very strongly a very small portion of our population, unfortunately, are abusing the product, and we need to be able to address that issue.
But some of your critics might argue that alcohol advertising has increased the abuse of alcohol. Your comment?
Well, that is not true. In fact, to the contrary, the World Health Organization, which obviously is a very independent organization, has studied some of the patterns in South Africa, and they tell us that over the last 10 years, consumption of alcohol, per capita consumption of alcohol in South Africa has actually dropped. And if you contrast that with the expenditure from companies like SAB, Brand House, Distel, the advertising spend has actually gone up. In 1989, for an example, these companies were spending about 63 million in advertising. Today, they are spending over 4 billion rands every year on advertising. And that particular money, if you look at the consumption has gone down, but the advertising spend has gone up. And you might be asking yourself, but why are these companies continuing to spend so much money if they are unable to attract new customers into their fold? The reality of the matter is that our members are using advertising as a platform in order for them to be able to communicate with those who have already decided that they are going to consume alcohol and try and convince them to be able to switch from one brand to the next. So it's about choice. We're creating choice, and South Africa, because it's a constitutional democracy, we're very excited about the fact that there's competition and there are laws governing competition. And unfortunately, if you ban alcohol advertising, unfortunately, that competition will no longer thrive, particularly in the industry, because our consumers will not be able to have the advantage to be able to choose from one brand to the other.
Mike Mabasa, thank you so much. From our Cape Town and Sea Point studios, Mike Mabasa, the spokesperson for the industry for responsible alcohol use. What's your take on that one? The manufacturing industry says the recent protracted strikes in the automotive sector